Welcome back, all you Cocomelons, to another episode of Video Game World Tours, a series where we slow down and soak in a game's environment. Today's tour takes us to the peculiar world of Sonic Frontiers. After booting up the game and playing a quick linear stage, you're dropped into the open world of Kronos Island. Well, it's not very open right here. You're in a little crevice with only one way forward. Before we move on though, I just want to quickly acknowledge this area. I've always found starting areas like this to be so chill. Usually they're super simple and are built in a way to teach you the controls. Like you gotta jump to leave this spot. Then, once you progress past it and go through all the troubles of the main plot, you return like 15 hours later and it's still the same, undisturbed from when you first left. It reminds me of the Shrine of Resurrection in Breath of the Wild, only outside. So you leave that little pocket of the world and it opens up a bit. Not too much, mind you. There's a cliffside to your left and a massive wall to your right. You're still enclosed, just not as much. This almost feels like it could be one of the linear stages in the game. So you go through and let the game tutorialize you. Learn about combat, puzzles, all the stuff you'll need to know going forward. I like what they do with the level design here. There's this big gate thing and you go through it. The wall to your left tapers off, but they placed some trees right in front of the path to block the sightline forward. It's almost as if the rock wall is still there. If you take the time and walk forward, you can see what the trees are blocking, which is a beautiful view. But if you're on autopilot following the intended path, you won't notice that just yet. You use the dash pad in front of you and continue along, keeping your camera focused on what's in front of you. And as you naturally turn the camera to keep following the intended path, the hill before you comes into view. You feel the scale of the game increasing bit by bit the further you progress through this early section. And you can just tell that right on top of that hill, that's going to be the game's big moment. You follow the path up the mountain and, yep, here it is. You're treated to a cutscene that takes you sweeping through the landscape, showing you all that you can freely explore. The game is literally like, yo, go do whatever you want now. I like this spot because of that. It's where you're set loose. But I also appreciate the opening section before it. It's fun to look back at areas like that after beating the game. Now though, we shift our eyes forward to the massive sandbox before us. There's a ton of weird and fun little spots to look at, and by God, we are gonna look at them. Like these Coco buildings to the north. Coco are little creatures you can find dotted around the world, and they built all these. I really like the design aesthetic they got going on. But they don't really seem that practical. I mean, how do you even enter them? I can't remember if these are supposed to be their homes or not. I'd assume they are. But how can they get in there and do home stuff? Look at these smaller ones. Can they maybe phase through this darker material? I don't know. I pointed this out back in my Ocarina of Time tour, but I like when developers give you just enough to hint at a world being real. Like sure, these are buildings where the Coco live, but they didn't worry about pesky things like doors or, God forbid, interiors. Imagine if each of these had an interior you could walk around in. It'd be amazing, but God, that'd be painful for the developers. Glitch City in there. Rather than doing all that, they just made house-shaped buildings and called it a day. This is a Sonic game. You don't need to see inside a Coco's house. Don't worry about it. Most of the architecture in the game uses this blocky design language. It's very weathered and feels appropriate alongside the landscape. I can't say the same for what Eggman brought. He left his mark with this little pod thing and a handful of walkways to set up forward operating bases on the game's islands. And they do not belong. The industrial style doesn't mesh well with the mostly naturalistic style of the Coco's buildings. It's alien, which makes sense because he's practically an invading force into their territory. He has some stuff set up on the northern side of the map. Honestly, I don't know what his goal was with all this. He has the ship he presumably brought all the stuff in. That makes sense. Wish I could enter it though. And this door seems pretty tall. Anyway, there's all these pathways and platforms, but for what? What was his goal? What uses did he have for a platform up there? Maybe he just liked the view? This island does have some nice views. I think the spot at the bottom of this waterfall is beautiful. I'm kinda iffy on the game's art style at times, but I think it all comes together really nicely in spots like this. There's also a few spots with some striking patches of flowers. Look at all these. I like this one in particular because it has such a humble view. It's not like you're hundreds of feet above the ground and can see everything for miles, though this game does have its fair share of spots like that. This is more grounded. I can imagine myself sitting on a hill like this, surrounded by flowers, taking in the landscape in front of me. Nearby is a graveyard. Kind of a macabre addition to a Sonic game, though the whole story of the Coco is tragic, so it fits, I guess. I like the visual of all the tombstones being lined up in a grid. It's definitely a sight that catches your eye when you first come across it. It's also home to a silly little light puzzle. Kinda takes away some of the solemnness the scene has, but whatever. Video games need puzzles. Why not have Sonic turn all the tombstones to redirect a light beam? Westwards is... I don't even know what to call this. I kinda want to call it a big mirror, but I don't know why. Floating above it is a pyramid-type thing. It's just complete nonsense. But I like the implication. The implication that Coco were such an advanced species, that they built all these structures that had purpose back then. But now that they're gone, it's mostly meaningless, purposeless, left to be consumed by moss and deteriorate. We'll have some more stuff like this to look at later. Finishing up on the game's first island, I would love to talk about the arena where you fight a big boss, but you can't return there. Where before was a spring to bounce you up the waterfall to the northern part of the island, now lies an unassuming rock, blocking you from going up and exploring the mostly empty boss arena. I tried my damnedest to get high enough and homing attack the spring above, but I had no luck. What a shame. Before we move on to the next island though, let's look at my favorite spot on Kronos Island. Remember how I talked about this little hill earlier, and how this is somewhere I could imagine being in real life? I could not imagine being in this spot. You're so far above the ground, looking over the whole island. There are other spots that are higher, like the tower over there or the floating pyramid thing, but the placement of the platform I'm on makes this one my favorite. You're high up, but not too high. It's still low enough where you can make out details. But if you're feeling daring enough, you can jump through this ring and be shot into the sky, literally higher than both spots I pointed out earlier, and you fall back down to the ground. What a lovely spot for giving you such an experience. Ares Island is up next. As you might have noticed, this is a desert island. I like the aesthetic contrast between this and the previous island. I genuinely wasn't sure what to expect when I learned I was going to a new island. If you're gonna have a handful of open worlds in a game, and you need a set of diverse environments, desert isn't a bad one to reach for. Though, spoilers, the game doesn't have an icy environment. Kinda wish it did to balance out the desert here. Regardless, I like the dunes here. It's a great place to just run around in. While Kronos Island had its fair share of open spaces, you really get to stretch your legs here and just boost. You can run from the western edge to the eastern edge in a straight line if you aim it properly. Obviously, an environment needs obstacles to be engaging. A flat plane in and of itself isn't that fun to run around in, but I'm glad there's at least one section of one island that really embraces this super open design style. There's a lot of Cocoa ruins on this stage. Some more buildings like we saw in Kronos. Again, not sure of the purpose of these. There's literally no entrance. It also has weapons. Dozens of deadly cannons dot the desert dunes. Some have even been reduced to a pile of rubble. It leaves you thinking, what intense battle was waged here? Did these help at all? And what are these? They reminded me of some fortification you'd see in a Battlefield game or something. These are what I was thinking of. You see the resemblance? I had to Google it to learn the name, and maybe you'll learn it for the first time here too. These are called Czech hedgehogs. They can't be here just for the name. Czech hedgehogs are usually anti-tank fortifications, or just anti-vehicle in general. What use would they have placed right here at the edge of this massive cliff? What are they meant to stop? Maybe I'm completely misinterpreting what these are supposed to be. I don't know. You have any ideas? I'll move on for now. The blue Chaos Emerald is kept in a little alcove. Really reminds me of the first spot we looked at. I don't know, I'm a sucker for tucked away areas like this. There's a handful of Cocoa hanging out, doing their own thing. They seem to enjoy it here too. To reach this spot, you have to go through a tiny oasis. I love finding an oasis in video game deserts. Though it does feel kinda weird to say that my favorite part about video game deserts are the parts that aren't traditionally deserty. Just a little bit of variety is nice. It's cool to find a little pocket of water and palm trees in a place like this. Even some patches of grass and flowers are placed around. There's a slightly bigger oasis to the south, though I kinda appreciate the restraint shown in the smaller one. I like a tiny oasis in a massive desert. Though the bigger one does have these two Cocoa hanging out on a rock. That's cute. After some main story progression, a gate opens, giving you access to the rest of Ares Island. I'm not as big a fan of this section of the map compared to the one you start in. It has some more of the open areas I like, but it's a bit more segmented. Which is fine, it's good to have variety in the terrain. But there's a lot of little cracks in the ground with big drops, and they'll often sneak up on you. You'll be boosting along to an objective, then bam, cliff out of nowhere and you fall down. Now you have to get your bearings and look for a way back up. And I get it. Stuff like this is to make repeat travels through here more engaging, because you remember where the pits are and you can jump over them. Sonic's been doing that since literally the Genesis. It just still kinda sucks the first time around. There's no getting by that. There are some nice landmarks around here though. Like these massive walls. Another thing that gets you thinking about what the Cocoa were doing here and just the whole scale of their operation. These are Attack on Titan sized. And yes, this is the second video in a row where I've mentioned Attack on Titan. And no, I haven't seen it. What can I say? I'm just drawn to massive walls in games. As for a pretzel certified video game world tour spot, there's a little crevice behind the wall you can enter. I say crevice, it's actually pretty big. Crevice sized compared to the wide open spaces everywhere else. I honestly don't remember if anything of note was in here to begin with. Stupidly, I played a little bit of this game while I wasn't recording, so I can't look back at my footage to see if there was anything in here on my first time around. I know there was a little treasure chest thing that you can loop around and it'll reveal a collectible, but those don't take up a lot of space. You only have to make a loop this big or so. This area is just small enough to feel like it could hide something, but big enough to feel like it should have had more. Like even just a spring to bounce you up to the level above or something. Anything. But now that I've grabbed whatever was back here, it's just empty. I love it. There are, of course, other massive ancient structures. I think this is the biggest non-tower thing we've seen. And what is it? It kind of resembles a radar dish, but it could also be a weapon of some kind. There's a little rail path that takes you around it and shoots you out. You aren't taken directly to the top. But if you're a bit crafty, you can jump off the rail at the right time and do some Skyrim mountain climbing to get up there. This is kinda like the last spot we looked at on Kronos Island. You get a great view of the whole play space here. I haven't actually seen Ares Island from this perspective until now. I'm so used to running around on the ground. Considering there are so many spots on this map to block line of sight to other parts of it, getting a nice high-up view kinda ties it all together. The yellow Chaos Emerald is located on another place high in the sky. Though not quite as high, so you get a slightly different perspective compared to the radar dish thing we just visited. Lots of random boxes. Did Eggman put these here? And are these just normal-ass floor lamps? Huh? Whatever. Our next spot is in view. You can see a tiny bit of it right there. Yet another oasis with some trees in the desert. Only this one is much more developed. Look at all this grass. If you point the camera in the right direction, it doesn't even feel like you're in a desert anymore. I think I've already said all that can be said about why an oasis is cool. I just wanted to show off the biggest one here. Super chill place. On the southeastern side of the map, you can gaze out at the waters and islands in the distance. But you might also notice something much closer. A tiny rock pillar with a single cocoa building on it. Riding the rail over there, we can see that this is a fishing house. Well, a portal taking you to the northern fishing spot is here, but I like to imagine this building was built for a fisherman. There is something inside this building though. A hole. Jumping down, you fall a pretty good distance. Eventually, you land completely unscathed. Sonic must have the long fall boots on. Anyway, you find yourself in a massive underground tunnel network. Of note though, is this big room. All that remains in here is a little laser enemy that you can dispatch easily. Once you do that, you feel a sense of loneliness set in. You're such a tiny little creature in such an enormous room. If we head this way though, we can escape the underground tunnels and reach my favorite spot on Ares Island. We're kinda going the opposite way you're supposed to, but doing that really allows us to take our time and enjoy this beautiful cave. Look at the blues and oranges there. The smooth textures make this place feel so welcoming. I'm almost tempted to call this my favorite spot. The chill vibes are through the roof. Alright, now we go through this tunnel. You might recognize where I'm going. The boss arena. Much how I wanted to explore the boss arena of Kronos Island after that fight, I wanted to return here and see what it would be like. And well, it's empty. It's not 100% empty, as there are a few rings to collect, but it is noticeably sparse compared to every other area on the island. But it's also memorable. The white sand is what helps this place stick out in my mind. Orange sand is what you've been used to seeing throughout this whole stage, and white sand leaves a mark on you. It feels appropriately distinct for a place where you fight a big boss. Just boosting around, taking in the colors and the landscape, it's so satisfying. But then, when you stop, you appreciate it in a different way. You feel so small in such a big world. Like, look at how tall that tower is. Sonic's just a little pipsqueak compared to it. I like that dynamic in game worlds, where everything feels so big in comparison to the size of the player character. And this spot really nails that. I only covered the first 2 islands of the game here. I wanted to give the islands the time and respect they deserved. I didn't want to rush through them all for one video. If you want to see me return to Sonic Frontiers and cover the remaining islands, drop a comment letting me know. check out either of these videos up next. The top one, insert title here, is great, but so is insert title here. You should really watch both. Subscribe, like the video, you know. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.